It's a joke.
This is Kelly Stokes, who is one of our new reporters. She likely is going to be doing city government. These people are city council members.
And I'm his favorite.
She is.
And I'm in trouble.
Well, wait a minute.
She is.
I thought I was your favorite.
You're wrong.
And I don't believe a word we're saying.
Well,
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm the court jester.
And I'm just saying,
Half the
you
city is
running
there.
around with,
you know, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have a choice, you know.
you can tell we love.
So you just point blank turned to me and said, "You're wrong."
You're wrong.
Won't be the last time today. I'm sure.
Why don't we go ahead and call our meeting to order, please? If we could stand for a moment of silence, and then I'll ask Ms. Conway to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I didn't bring mine. On purpose.
Shall we call the roll, please?
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Ms. Conway?
Here.
Mr. Leslie? Ms. Singer Early?
Here.
Ms. Tingle Sams?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Ms. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you all. Each of you in your packet should have a copy of the minutes of our last regularly scheduled meeting of March the 28th. If you'd like to take a moment to look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
Motion.
Motion's been
second.
made for approval.
I'll say.
Conway. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Also in your packet, you should have received our latest check register. If everybody would indicate if they received that register. Thank you. Well, always the most exciting part of our meeting are the public comments. Did I give you a sheet or not? You got a sheet. Here we go. You will need these for the minutes later. First, Miss Amelia Cloud.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
I am, some of you may remember that I am on the board of the Arts and Cultural Center, and we are having our third annual Garden Day at the Park this Saturday, and I brought a poster. We've already had some placed around. Arlene's placed some around, and it's already on the city Facebook page. Is that what you told me?
correct.
Yeah, Facebook page and the Arts and Cultural Facebook page. We're trying to get the word out. We have lots of different classes that are going on. This year it's going to be at Yuko-en Japanese Friendship Garden. We are trying to go around to all of our lovely historic parks and park areas. The first year we had it at Royal Spring. Last year we had it at the Arts and Cultural Center. Also had the Girl Scouts partner with us and put in a monarch butterfly garden behind the museum. And if you haven't been over there to see it, you really should. The flowers are lovely. The mural on the wall is up. So this year it's going to be at Yuko-en, and we have lots of great classes going on. We partner with the Extension Office and the Girl Scouts and the Master Gardeners. So we have a lot of really nice things there. We started this 4 years ago, we started thinking about it, but Jan and I want to bring more recognition and more awareness of the lovely parks that we have in mostly Georgetown, but in Scott County. So I started the first year doing work at the Arboretum and the Native Plant Garden on the college property, and the Girl Scouts did a project with me. Then, as I said, we did Royal Springs, and then the Arts and Cultural Center with their Victorian garden and the museum. And so this year we'll do Yuko-en. But we're trying to bring awareness to the log cabin, to the parks, to get people to understand that we have these lovely parks and they can come and take advantage of them. Leadership Scott County has put picnic tables now down at the pavilion at Royal Springs, so that's one more plus that we have down there. They also put a sign. It's never had a sign down there to indicate what park it was. So this year, our focus will be on UCON, and I'll be talking to the people that come a little bit about the gardens. Girl Scouts are gonna do a Lego project there. We have the Master Gardeners that are gonna be doing a lot of different things. Paper making demonstration, clay with Annie Leader and Annie Brady. We're gonna do clay at the Kiln House, and recycling. If anybody wants to adopt a bike, we have gotten some bikes that have been recycled, and we're going to let people adopt them out to decorate them to then put back on Main Street during the Horsey 100. So we're trying to be more inclusive of letting people understand in the community about the Horsey 100 that is such a huge part of our community, but not everybody is aware of how it impacts. So just invite you all to come. Everything is free. It's from 10 until 2 this Saturday at UCON.
When you all have a chance to look at the flyer more closely, pretty fascinating day. You're going to be welcomed by Smokey the Bear and Ruby Raindrop. And I love the stage of our life. One of the sessions is entitled Wild Ones, but it refers to native plants.
Flowers.
That's a national native plant group, and they have their chapters and they talk about native plants.
It's a teaser.
Yeah, exactly.
She mentioned the work that the Girl Scouts have done on the parking lot behind the museum. And that's not on everybody's daily route, but take a swing down Mulberry Street and take a look at this parking lot behind the museum. The murals are up and look great. The native planting areas, a lot of folks are confused when they see native plants because they're not always as bright and beautiful, but they're very important to the monarch butterflies and other species. And there's also a graffiti garden where students have painted little rocks.
Legally this time.
Legally. It's a nice effect.
Rainbow colors of the rocks, and the girls will have more rocks to be painted this year. We just want to keep adding to the garden. I just planted 4 flats of different kinds of milkweed 2 weeks ago, so we can have those to plant in the garden and different areas around the community to encourage, because they finally the Girl Scouts got their sign to indicate that this is a butterfly way station, so it has to come officially from that organization. So it's a monarch butterfly way station.
Good.
So we'll be putting butterfly houses around the community too.
We'll
Thank
look
you
forward to
very
seeing you
much.
Saturday. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next on our agenda for public comment, one of our regular friends that come to City Council, Mr. Bill Corkins. Each of you all have been provided with a letter from Mr. Corkins. We have, there have been several steps taken in response to the letter that I've not had a chance to talk with Mr. Corkins about yet.
I don't have to read it, I just have to give it to you, I guess.
I just, I'm not, just in all fairness, Bill, I want us to address your concerns, and I want us to address your neighbors' concerns.
Yeah. We appreciate that.
And you've raised some very serious issues. I'd like to work with you and Chief Bossy to see if we could have a more productive conversation, perhaps not in a public meeting.
That's fine.
It's not that we're opposed to doing this in a public meeting, but you understand the
Oh, I do.
sensitivity.
I absolutely do.
And if I could schedule a time to meet with you and Chief Mossy,
Well, I think my number's on there.
it is. And I had intended to be able to get with you before this meeting to let you know.
I had hoped.
that-
Just for the record, I am Bill Corkins. Hi, y'all. I do want y'all to know that there's been a lot of work done on the house across the street from me, and it is looking much finer.
Mr.
I
Highlander-
think that's good for tonight, right?
Yeah, Mr. Highlander did a nice job
He's doing a very good facelift.
with all that. And Mr. Corcoran wishes to address some concerns about one of their neighbors on Rucker. And we're not opposed at all to having that conversation, but I'd rather.
I didn't think
give
you
it a
were.
different way.
And this, I will have to admit, I did not write this. One of my neighbors did. He took it upon himself to write this, but several neighbors are a little shy. And you probably noticed I'm not so shy.
Actually, I'm just proud your hair's all one color tonight, Bill.
At school, it changes colors a lot, yes. And length as well.
Ms. Corcoran's been very good about bringing issues of mutual concern from his neighbors from Rucker Avenue, and we look forward to getting with you and talking about this in greater detail.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, and we will be looking forward to getting together.
Look, we will do so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Y'all have a great
Anything
evening.
else for the good of the order?
I do. There's something else I would like to share. Boy Scouts would love to work with you. That's my favorite group in this community because I'm in 19 years
We've
of
worked
being
them
with.
regularly. They've
They
done lots
they
of
have done a lot of stuff at the different parks,
the Royal Spring.
and I appreciate the Girl Scouts. I really do. I just want to bring them up, the Boy Scouts. Of course, the girls won't ever get anywhere without the Boy Scouts, so you know, and vice versa. So.
I'll be happy to give you my card, Bill, and you can
Unfortunately, at this time, I'm not a working leader, but if you got a card, I will get it to somebody who is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bill, thank you very
You
much.
guys have fun tonight.
We've got some big things to do tonight. Thank you very much. Next for public comment is Tom Combs concerning the 4th of July parade.
Oh, man, I know what you're talking about. Leave it to me.
Mayor PRATHER, fellow council members, here again with Scott County Kiwanis, our nightclub, and once again I'm here submitting a couple applications actually. One to enable us to conduct the July 4th parade, which will be Monday, July 4th this coming year, and it will entail transforming College Street into one-way to enable the floats and participants to line up, and then the closure of Main Street. And this year we're targeting 9:30 to the start of the parade, which will be about 11 o'clock. In conjunction with that, I had another request, an application for use of the, I guess you call it Courthouse Square, or the parking area to the east of the courthouse for potential food vendors that day. There were a couple that did attend that last year. These are the two applications I have to submit to you.
Sounds good. And Lori's indicated we do have the correct application been properly filled out with the insurance in place and,
Yep.
and all those things. So we appreciate your advanced work on those issues. Is there a motion? for
Motion,
approval?
Mayor.
A second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. The only other thing we need to know, Tom, is what have you done to yourself?
Just age, injury, I guess. Too much wear and tear. Too much lining up of floats.
I understand.
I thought maybe you got too close to the fireworks.
I could have happened.
If there are no questions for Tom, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And
Thank you
speaking
very
of
much.
fireworks, the Kiwanis are now doing the fireworks.
Yeah.
And that's exciting because
Absolutely.
we've done such a successful job the last couple of years with the parade, and now taking on the fireworks is going to be even
See how it goes.
better. Oh, it's going to be fun.
But,
As long as your leg's not hurt so you can run quick.
oh man, I'll need to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That is all the folks who signed up for public comment. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to address the council under public comment? Okay. Well, that leaves me no alternative but to go to mayor's comments.
You had your chance. Mitch.
Alex, it's a running joke in council meetings about my mayor comments being somewhat lengthy. I can't imagine where that comes from. And I'm going to surprise you tonight.
Uh-oh.
Just a couple of things. I wanted to bring up the issue of Time Warner Cable and the fact that despite significant efforts on our part in franchise negotiations and understandings that we had up front, that I've been very disappointed in the performance of Time Warner. As you know, we had very specific agreements. In fact, prior to us asking you to approve the franchise agreement, we identified 6 neighborhoods around Georgetown that needed build out, and we received specific assurances that those would be built out. We're still struggling to get some of those completed. The most common phone calls we get are, and you may get them as well, are from residents of the Abbey. They've just struggled mightily to get the right internet service. Just this week, I penned a pretty strong letter to Time Warner indicating that if these committed build-outs weren't completed in a timely manner, that we were willing to file suit. So just want the council to know that we've done everything we can do to work cooperatively, and now we're taking a bit more firm approach. We also think there's been very little press about the completion of the merger that the FCC's been looking at, Federal Trade Commission, FTC, between Charter and Time Warner. We're beginning to hear some rumblings that that merger may be completed before too long. It's been pretty much sitting in limbo waiting for regulators' approval. Once that merger is complete, then I think we have even stronger legal standing for our demands. And just wanted you all to know that we're at the point of making those demands. To piggyback on the comments about Park Day coming up this Saturday, we have a couple of other really neat events that I want you all to be aware of. April the 22nd will be our Main Street Clean Sweep Day. It's actually our celebration of Earth Day. Will be April the 22nd, and we're going to do that from 12 to 4 p.m. And we'll have teams in T-shirts picking up trash on Main Street. We want to expand this all over the community, but we'll have a focus that day on Main Street. So April the 22nd, if anybody wants to throw in a pair of jeans, and we'll give you a T-shirt. We can pick up trash that day. Also, the weekend, I guess, after we have the day in the Garden Day in the park, the Georgetown Kite and Cultural Festival, which the Rotary Club puts on for us, will be at Cardome on April 23rd and 24th. Weather permitting, that's one of the most fun days in our community.
Yeah.
So if you all would note those days, they will be available for you. Also, just wanted to make the council aware, several of you were probably at the chamber luncheon today when Judge Lesby gave his State of the County address. And Judge did a nice job with his address. The thing that caught my ear the most was Judge Lesby acknowledged the fact that Lanes Run Business Park, which is a job creator for the city and county, needs significant infrastructure improvements. And he stated today publicly that he felt the county had a responsibility to help us with that infrastructure.
That'd be great.
And that is a significant shift in the county's position. So I want to compliment Judge Lesby for being willing to consider that investment along with us. I think that makes the possibility very real that maybe even this year we can get additional infrastructure improvements into Lanes Run Business Park. We've done a master plan for what the next phase will look like, and it's a very impressive master plan that will cost somewhere just north of $4 million to implement all of the necessary roads, sewer, for one of the roads to work and come out on Cherry Blossom directly across from one of Toyota's gates. Will even require a bridge in our business park. So there's some pretty pricey stuff that goes into it. But if we're going to be ready in terms of job creation, we've got to get that going. The judge's announcement today was very encouraging. I'm going to have some talks with Toyota about, they have been the city's partner in the past in buying land and for the Lanes Run Business Park. And I want to revisit to see what funds might be available from that source as well. So just, that was something the judge and I had been talking about for some time, and I was very pleasantly surprised today
Good.
that he chose the chamber address to indicate his willingness to look at that funding. Item 7 on your agenda, that's all the mayor's comments I've got.
Somebody write that down.
I know, that's a record.
I'm done with that clock. Probably fooling.
You've been 3 hours and 8 minutes.
It's a record. It's a record.
Surely I can do better than this. In your packet, we have a municipal order approving surplus items for the cemetery. Let's see. Andy, would you like to read the municipal order?
Sure.
In order declaring surplus property and authorizing disposal of such property by public auction, whereas the attached list of equipment required for use by the Georgetown Cemetery is in need of repairs exceeding its current value, is not being currently used by the city, and should be declared surplus. Now therefore, it is hereby ordered by the Georgetown City Council that the equipment acquired by the Georgetown Cemetery as listed, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, is declared surplus, and that the mayor is authorized to dispose of the same by public auction and to sign all relevant documents.
What follows that municipal order in your packet is the list of surplus property. It's very straightforward. A John Deere tractor, a Toro Twister buggy, and a Toro Z Master mower.
Motion.
Motion's been made.
Second, Mayor.
Second, Ms. Tackett.
This is an online, Mayor, online for this. They gonna do this online like we normally do, or?
Probably.
Okay.
That's really worked well.
It does.
Okay, have we voted on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item on your agenda, styled under Human Resources, is first reading of an ordinance amending the personnel and pay classification plan, with Ms. Eardley being the sponsor. We have had a chance in the last week to meet with both the Police Committee and the Finance Committee to review the need for this. As we anticipated Chief Bossy's request for us to achieve a larger pay differential between sergeant level pay and lieutenant level pay, we found that we were bumping up against the top of some of the salary grades. The reason that's occurred is we've given some form of raises over the last several years, but we've never altered the structure of those pay classifications. But just the natural effect of us giving a raise over several consecutive years, we're beginning to bump up against the top level of some of those areas. What we wanted to do is accommodate this existing need within the pay scales. We didn't want to do a wholesale change of the pay grades. There wasn't a need to do that. We did need to do it to specifically give Chief Bossy the opportunity, for us to give Chief Bossy the opportunity to effect these salary changes. One important change that we made since we met with the Finance Committee, David and Connie, when we first presented the grades and what increase there would be, we also, for the documents that you all saw, we increased grade 11 and we also increased grade 12. But after thinking about that internally, we recognized that we don't need to alter grade 11. That's where most of our directors are, is in grade 11. And we think that we're about 4 years away from needing to change the upper limits of grade 11. Today, we don't have any grade 12 employees. I think that was one time thought that that could be a city manager or a city administrative officer if we changed our form of government. It made no sense to me to ask you all to approve a change that would give us latitude down the road that we don't need. And just for council's confidence, I wanted to make sure you understood that we've only bumped those ranges that take care of the need that Chief Bossy's identified. We are not changing grade 11, and in fact, with this change, we're eliminating grade 12. If we ever have a need for one, we'll come back to council and ask you to approve it. If we ever have a need for grade 11, the upper boundary to change, then we'll come back to you at that time and ask for that permission. We only wanted to ask what we absolutely had to have today. So with that bit of explanation on the front end, and again, Police Committee has approved this and the Finance Committee has seen it as well.
An ordinance amending Article 4 of Section 2-111C of the Code of Ordinances to increase the maximum pay ranges of grades 4 through 10 and eliminate grade 12 in the schedule of compensation. Summary. 1. Amend Article 4 of Section 2-111C of the Code of Ordinances, which sets forth the schedule of compensation to increase the maximum pay for each of grades 4, 5, 6, and 7 by $8,000. Increase the maximum pay for each of grades 8, 9, and 10 by $12,000, to make no changes to grade 11 and to eliminate grade 12 as a pay classification. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov.
Any questions about the intent of the ordinance or how we went about it or the effect that it has? If not, that will constitute first reading, and we'll do second reading and roll call vote then at our next regularly scheduled meeting. There is an associated action that goes with the ordinance. The manner in which we've talked with Chief Bossy about creating the greater range between sergeant pay and lieutenant pay. We did not want to increase the overall size of the departmental budget. We did a budget amendment, so we didn't want to go down that route. What we did with Chief Bossy was a similar approach that we used earlier this year for our CDL drivers at Public Works and some of our dispatchers, telecommunications officers at 911. What Chief Bossy has suggested and what we ask you tonight to do is to freeze 4 crossing guard positions that are currently fully funded in this budget. That savings of freezing those positions will create enough funds to give this to create this 6% differential between sergeant pay and lieutenant pay. So while the chief's trying to look at his future needs, we funded it by freezing 4 of these crossing guards. That still leaves us with 4 active crossing guards that we're still utilizing. We have met with the superintendent and expressed our concern about the crossing guard cost, especially the workers' compensation cost for crossing guards. We're not ready to pull those positions away from the school yet. We'd like to work with them rather than snatch those positions back, but we do think it's appropriate to freeze these 4 to give Chief Fossey the flexibility.
Do you have a date of unfreezing them, or is this for?
Indefinitely.
Okay.
I think the only way I'd be comfortable with this, Karen, is that it require a trip back to the council to unfreeze them before we ever sought to use them. Otherwise, it's a false accounting thing, and we're trying to do this real quickly. Would you like to read the municipal order, please?
In order indefinitely freezing 4 crossing guard positions in the police department. Whereas the City of Georgetown Police Department has determined that it is in the best interest of the department to indefinitely freeze 4 PTS crossing guard positions, and now therefore it is hereby ordered by the Georgetown City Council that the 4 positions of PTS crossing guard in the police department are frozen indefinitely, and the department shall not during the freeze hire persons to fill those positions.
There a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Eardley. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Mayor, if the school system decides to come back and desperately would like to have those back and is willing to pay for them, we'd be glad to put them right back in.
And it's interesting, Marvin, right now, the administration at the school system is maintaining that an attorney general's opinion prohibits them from paying crossing guards. I want to do a little homework on that,
Yeah.
because I don't think every city pays for
Safety of every
those.
child is their responsibility, as much as it is ours.
That will be a topic of ongoing conversation, particularly given the amount of costs that we've
Oh,
been
yeah.
providing that service. Okay. Did we vote on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Also in your packet is a municipal order for Public Works. We had talked for some time about a piece of equipment that will help us fix potholes better. And in fact, council will recall, we determined that we would use MAP funds, and we even had an MAP public hearing, Municipal Aid Program public hearing, to use funds to buy this infrared asphalt patching machine. Richard, it's been best described to me as just a big sun lamp on the back of a truck that essentially warms the blacktop enough to where we can make a more permanent repair.
Very apt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, would you proceed with that?
In order approving the purchase of an infrared asphalt patching machine for the Public Works Department and authorizing the mayor to sign all relevant documents. Whereas the purchase of an infrared asphalt patching machine will be paid for using municipal road aid funds as determined by public hearing, and whereas bids were advertised, and whereas the lowest bid meeting specifications was from KC Infrared in the amount of $41,965. Now therefore, it is hereby ordered by the Georgetown City Council that the purchase of an infrared asphalt patching machine from KC Infrared in the amount of $41,965, for which a bid response form is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, is approved, and the mayor is authorized to sign all relevant documents.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Motion?
I'll second.
Second. Okay, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Y'all didn't think we could do it this quickly.
Oh, yeah.
We're not done yet.
We're not done yet. I know. I know, just stay tuned. We are at the point of the meeting where I would like to ask for an executive session to discuss sale or acquisition of property.
Motion, Mayor, to enter into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101B to discuss proposed acquisition or sale of city property.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll enter executive session for a few minutes. If you all would be so kind as to excuse us.
Would it be okay if the new reporter stayed just so that she could get a taste of what the?
She'll get a taste, you'll get a taste afterwards. Hey, pick up his mic, lay it down there.
I'm not your favorite, so.
And then,
Just kidding.
for both you and the public, we do anticipate action after the executive session.
Okay.
Let's
Just
wait
teasing.
until Lori can turn down the mics before we.
Yeah, we're still live, so since Laurie's doing double
Can't
duty.
see us, but they can hear us. Took pizza, huh?
doing them.
Everyone laughing, but it was
Having
fun
a good
to learn.
time, having a good time.
It's a good time, yeah.
Okay.
It's too late. You do that quick enough.
Thank you all for your patience. Do we have a motion to resume regular session?
Motion, come back into from executive session.
Thank
to
you.
regular session.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good. While in executive session, we discussed potential real estate transactions and are we all set up, Laura? Okay. I do have some comments, and then we have an action item for the council to consider. Tonight, we have an opportunity to discuss a very exciting transaction, and one that occurred to me, Father Lynn, is it's actually an opportunity that is generational in nature. It's rare when we have an opportunity to be a part of a transaction that is this significant and this important to our community. What we're talking about for the audience is a transaction that will ultimately return Cardome to the Catholic Church. And when we've talked about this from the very beginning, we think that this transaction between the city and St. John's approaches perfect symmetry. That after these many years, Cardome would return to the Catholic Church that built Cardome and has taken such care of it. We have with us tonight a couple of key players from the transactions the discussions that we've been having. Most of you know Father Lynn. Also Richard Hamilton from the congregation, and Harry Datz. Thank you all very much for being here tonight and being a part of this. If I'm going to talk about Cardome, I also have to point to Tom Purvis. And Tom, the long term that you've spent taking care of Cardome on our behalf. And thank you for being here and the work that you've done as well. We've worked on a transaction that I think is structured to meet the long-term interest of the church, the city of Georgetown, and our broader community. In that we all have an interest in protecting Cardome. It's such a valuable historic asset, and it's meant so much to this community for so many years. We've had as a goal to maintain community involvement in Cardome. It's a place that our citizens feel very close to. Their ability to go to Cardome and enjoy the Kite Festival. Their ability to go to Cardome and either have a family wedding in Building 1 or for the Chamber of Commerce to meet there, for Georgetown Community Theater to have productions there. There are so many opportunities for partnership with the community. And I think what Richard and Father Lynn have worked on since day one is not just a traditional financial transaction, but a very unique transaction that recognizes the value of a community partnership. We've paid close attention to the economic development aspects of this transaction. And that's very important from a legal perspective as we work out the legal channels and the correct legal steps to make a transaction of this type. We've had to carefully establish the economic development value of the transaction. And I think we've already shared that document with you previously. And there are many ways in which we address the economic development opportunities for Georgetown. Probably the most obvious of which will be more teachers, more staff at the school that would then move to Cardome. So we think very quickly there's an economic development aspect to this. There's an aspect of environmental education, which is very important to Father Lynn and St. John's School. Even on some of the property that the church has already purchased out in the country, they've established wetlands. And our opportunity to work together on environmental education, focusing on the Elkhorn Creek, is very important to what we've talked about. Could not be more excited about the educational opportunities for St. John's School. They've done wonderful work with their schools, but they're very landlocked. They're very restricted in what they can do. And this will give them free rein, I think, to really grow the school in a manner that the community responds to. And that most people, when they drive in Cardome, are even unaware of the acreage to the left of the tree line. It's only obvious when you look at a plat, but that acreage to the left of the tree line that we've been able to maintain for future city use, particularly if the Legacy Trail can get extended over the Elkhorn Creek and finally end there at Cardome. And we want to share the use of that additional 30 acres with the school and their interest. The way we approach this financially is we have assigned a significant value to the partnership elements of the transaction. The fact that the church wants much of this property to be available for appropriate community use. For Building 1 to be able to be used in a community sense again. The grounds still to be used. So recognizing the value of this unusual partnership between a church and a community, that has lowered, in our opinion, the amount of hard cash that we would be willing to take for Cardome. We want to honor the partnership, but yet still we can't give Cardome away, regardless of how strong the partnership is. So you've been given a document tonight, and Andrew will read this for us because I think it'll lay everything out as we read through it. Tonight we will cancel the existing lease at Cardome. The folks that hold that lease have already signed the lease termination. Philip Cassidy has signed it. With your authorization tonight, I will sign that termination as well. The old lease will be finished. In its place, we would like to put in a 6-month lease that will give us ample opportunity to work out some of the finer details of the transaction and give us 6 months to work on that. We have included in your packet, and what Andrew will read, Exhibit B outlines some of the more salient points of the transaction, so that we're not asking this to be approved blindly, but to be approved with a general structure in place that we'll later add additional detail to during the 6-month period.
It's actually just incorporated right into the resolution. It's not an exhibit, just clarification.
Good. So it's not an exhibit, it is a part of the lease proper. I want the council and the public to know that this has been a goal of this community and this church for a very long time. Former Mayor Sames worked on this transaction when she was mayor and worked very hard at trying to make it real. No one has ever lost interest in that. And I began conversations with Richard Hamilton before I was even sworn in as mayor. And we've been at this some 15 months now. And just could not be more excited as a city and in support of this church for what we've worked out. We're looking at a purchase price of the balance of the property after we deduct this partnership element at $1 million. We will structure this transaction as a 20-year capital lease where the church will be obligated to make annual capital lease payments of $50,000. All of those, when the payments are at the $50,000 level, all of those payments will be credited to the purchase price. It is not our expectation that this transaction take 20 years to complete. We're going to structure it as a 20-year capital lease, but I think it's everyone's expectation that in a much shorter period of time, we're in a position to be able to pay off that $1 million and actually transfer the title to the church. The city, in a capital lease, will continue to hold the title until all the requirements of the capital lease have been met. Richard, what have I left out?
I think you've painted the picture very well. We're very excited to take on. We consider this a responsibility, not only to our parish but to the community, and we appreciate the opportunity, and it is an opportunity. We certainly recognize that.
Okay. Father Lynn? Any additions?
Do I have to?
No, sir.
He's got something to say.
You don't have to do anything, Father Lynn.
Yeah, I think the mayor articulated very well being here. This is my 9th year here, and I fell in love with Georgetown. And the true mission of the Catholic Church is the community, and the privilege to become a caretaker for Cardome, and hope that in our partnership that we become a monument that not just for the entire people and come to Georgetown will be benefit from that partnership. So the intention here is much more geared toward community build than just a transaction. So that's why you call it a legacy. And I think I would be very honored to be part of that legacy, and we stand for the future of our children.
Thank you very much. Harry, anything to add?
As a lawyer, I have to say something first.
Well,
We appreciate the trust and confidence that the city has had in us in this undertaking, and we will not let you down.
thank you very much. Henry, would you like to read the resolution?
Absolutely. A resolution finding and declaring that the sale of the property generally known as Cardome to the Roman Catholic Diocese of Lexington by and through the Saints Francis and John Parish serves a legitimate public purpose, and that the sale is for economic development purposes, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement terminating the existing lease with the Cardome Academy Association, authorizing the execution of a short-term lease with the diocese, and authorizing the mayor to negotiate the terms of a lease purchase agreement with the diocese. Whereas the city owns property at 800 Cincinnati Pike, commonly referred to as Cardome, and whereas the Roman Catholic Diocese of Lexington, by and through the Saints Francis and John Parish, the diocese has proposed to buy a portion of Cardome, the Cardome property. Whereas the Cardome property consists of Tract 1 of Cabinet 10, Slide 97, which tract is approximately 30.494 acres, and whereas the diocese has submitted an economic development plan outlining its intended use of the Cardome property, and whereas tourism is an essential form of economic development. Tourists contribute to sales, profits, jobs, tax revenues, and income in an area. Tourism generates employment, increases the local tax base, provides an outlet for local talent, and attracts outside investment of capital. It provides a sense of community identity, which attracts commercial, industrial, and residential development, which in turn stimulates the local economy and provides long-term growth. And whereas Cardome is one of the city's most important tourist attractions, and the diocese will continue to promote the Cardome property as a local and regional tourist destination, religious and secular visitors alike are drawn to the almost 200-year-old historic structure for its architectural, cultural, historical, and religious significance. And whereas the diocese will continue to operate the Cardome property as a premier venue for weddings, whose guests stay at the city's hotels, eat at the city's restaurants, shop at the city's stores, and share their experiences with friends and family, encouraging them to visit Georgetown, all of which contributes to the local economy. And whereas because the diocese intends to promote the Cardome property as a tourist destination, wedding venue, and arts and cultural facility, its contribution to the economic development in the city is unquestionable. And whereas the diocese will employ individuals to work at the Cardome property, the diocese's plan calls for significant work to restore and improve the structure and the grounds, which will employ multiple trades and professions whose incomes will contribute to the local economy. When the diocese opens its planned parochial school on the campus, educators, administrators, and support staff will be hired. And whereas the diocese plans to restore and repair an historic structure that has fallen into disrepair, and whereas the diocese plans to provide senior-assisted living services that are consistent with and supplemental to the existing Georgetown Scott County Senior Activity Center on the Cardome property, which provides a variety of services to the aging population. And whereas the diocese will preserve open space and continue many of the community traditions held on the Cardome site, such as the Kite Festival. And whereas the diocese will continue to maintain portions of the Cardome property for public gatherings. And whereas the diocese plans to expand the community-based opportunities on the Cardome property to benefit local theater groups, civic organizations, and artists. And whereas the city has the corporate power to acquire and dispose of property for a public purpose pursuant to KRS 82.081, and whereas portions of Cardome, including the Cardome property, are currently leased to the Cardome Academy Association, and whereas the Cardome Academy Association has executed an agreement terminating the lease for the convenience of both parties in order to facilitate the city's sale of the Cardome property to the diocese. And whereas the city and the diocese have reached an agreement regarding the terms of a short-term lease not to exceed 6 months for occupancy and operation of the Cardome property. And whereas the city and diocese have tentatively reached an agreement on the terms of a capital lease for the purchase of the Cardome property, which terms will be set forth in a long-term capital lease agreement to be drafted during the term of the short-term lease. And whereas the salient terms of the capital lease are as follows. 1. The agreed purchase price for the Cardome property, which consists of Tract 1 of Plat Cabinet 10, Slide 97, in the Scott County Clerk's Office, shall be $1 million. 2. The city will enter into a capital lease and option to purchase with the diocese for 20 years on a net basis, with initial rent of $50,100 per year payable in advance, of which $50,000 shall be a credit to the purchase price. 3. Cost of living adjustments in the rent shall occur at the end of the 5th, 10th, and 15th year of the capital lease, using the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index for Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, as of the last half year before the beginning and end of each 5-year period, to calculate any percentage increase. There shall be no decrease in the rent. Annual credit of rent to the purchase option shall remain at $50,000 even as the rent increases. There shall be no prepayment penalty. 4. The deed to the diocese for the Cardome property shall be escrowed with a local attorney or bank upon execution of the capital lease and option to purchase, with irrevocable instructions to the escrow agent for delivery of the deed to the diocese upon completion of its payment of $1 million to the city. 5. City makes the transfer to the diocese for purposes of economic development and historical and cultural preservation, but shall impose no use restrictions on the diocese, which may conduct school, church, social, and cultural activities thereupon, subject only to existing health and other ordinances. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Georgetown as follows. The city hereby finds and declares that for the reasons set forth above and in the diocese economic development plan, which is attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated as though set forth fully herein, the sale of the Cardome property to the diocese will be for economic development purposes as required under KRS 82.083 and will serve a legitimate public purpose as required under KRS 82.081. The agreement to terminate the existing lease with the Cardome Academy Association which is attached hereto as Exhibit B, is approved, and the mayor is authorized to execute the same. The short-term lease agreement with the diocese, which is attached hereto as Exhibit C, is approved, and the mayor is authorized to execute the same. The mayor is authorized to negotiate the terms of a capital lease with the diocese and shall seek final approval from council before execution.
We got it, Andrew, I didn't understand that.
Right.
Finance Committee, like to make that motion?
Yeah, we'll make the motion.
Yeah, I'll
Motion for
second it.
approval.
You all worked on it real hard. Thank you very much. Any questions for me, Andrew, Father Lynn, Harry?
I'm very pleased to see something like this happen. It's been a long, long few years out there at Cardome, and it's very interesting to see what happens in the next few years.
Yes, sir. If there are, let's just call the roll.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Ms. Singer Early?
Yes.
Ms. Tingle Sams?
Definitely.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Ms. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
It carries. Gentlemen, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
And congratulations to us as well. This is
Oh,
a
yeah.
good thing. Good thing.
That's right. And now our work really begins. Your work, our work. We had a couple of questions earlier while we were in executive session about the exact timing of this. We can sign the documents as quickly as tomorrow. You all will have to make some insurance arrangements. I don't want to rush you on that, but we'll move expeditiously toward signing this as soon as you all are ready.
Great.
Great, all righty. And that leaves only one item on our agenda, and that is council comments,
None tonight.
the highlight of the meeting. Dilly, do you have anything tonight?
Just wanted to tell you that I had the pleasure of spending time with Amy Preston with Habitat.
Yes.
On Thursday morning, we went out to the area where the homes are some are already built, some are to be built. And she designated a certain area to tell me exactly where she wanted the community garden. So I'm gonna be heavily involved with that and everything else I can do to help Habitat, so.
Good. Like for you and Polly both to know, given where you live, that we have caused a notice of violation to be sent to the barbed wire
Okay.
home. So I know each of you have expressed concern about that from time to
I
time.
drive by every day, it's there.
We've also caused notice of violation to be sent to the gentleman down on Water Street with the odd sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything else, Mel?
That's all right now, thanks.
Holly?
No, just excited about Cardome. I think it's
Very.
a win-win for everybody, and just neat to see it happen, because we started talking about it last January, so to see things
Exactly.
finally come to fruition is great.
Takes a while.
Yeah.
Marvin?
No, thank you, I'm finished. Done.
Mayor, likewise, thank you and Andrew for all your work on Cardome. I know you all put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I'd like to thank the three gentlemen in the back, whom I've gotten to know a little bit better, but we appreciate their vision and their mission, and look forward to seeing the work that they have ahead of them, that's for sure. I think the community will be greatly benefited, and like you said, it's kind of it's a win-win, it's a double win. The Catholic Church obviously will find them a new home, a very long-term home, and the community will still have the ability to utilize the facilities, as appropriately determined. So it's exciting. The last item, I want to commend you and Andrew as well for all the work you've done on the HOA ordinance. I know a lot of time, energy, and effort has gone into that. I think several of us have heard from some of the folks in the home building sector and the real estate sector. And Mayor, I know you and Andrew actually went and met with some different neighborhoods, and I think it might be appropriate for us to consider having another meeting that might be more open to the real estate community and let them have some input. Now, from what I've heard, I think maybe Andrew, you've already had some communication with maybe an attorney or two that represents
Nick Nicholson, perhaps? No?
Well,
Oh, I think we've heard from him. I didn't realize he was an attorney that represented anyone, but
Well-
I think he was just a
I thought
homeowner.
every attorney represented someone.
I believe, isn't it?
And
We've run
I say that in a very constructive
Yeah.
way. It's not critical at all.
No,
but
no, they just want,
It's an important issue
Right.
to the community. It's important to the homeowners, to the citizens, and it's also important to the construction industry and all those people that happen to be involved in it.
You know, we've talked a bit about the point that Joey Smith made and how that could be have a chilling effect on the
Oh, yeah.
developer. And Andrew and I have talked through that, and given other provisions that are in place, we think we can reasonably back off that one that would cause the developer so much angst. But we've gotten a lot of the work done. It makes sense to invite some real estate professionals, developers in to look at it again.
agree with you.
Yeah, and and again, I'm not being critical. I think you've done an excellent job with it. I just think this is an opportunity to bring both sides in and gain input. We might learn something, might be
Get it right.
beneficial, yeah.
Absolutely.
We want to get it right the first time, that's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
So are you.
Yeah. Okay. And that's a great time for me to mention, just for all the council to understand that tonight is Mr. Hartley's last day at work for about 10 days.
Oh, there's no way.
Well
I
deserved.
mean, you get all this done, you take off.
I know, right?
So can you give us a number to call you if we need you?
It's 555.
Probably not.
Guys, we have almost killed this
I
young
bet
man.
you have.
Good for
So-
you, Andrew.
Andrew will be back to work on the Friday right before our next council meeting. So
So enjoy your time off.
be easy on the mayor, because I'm not going to have a legal counsel
There you go.
for the next 2 weeks.
Well, that's why I want his number.
That's right. Karen?
I just want to say too, reiterate basically what David said. I mean, it is so great. Father Lynn said he was here 9 years ago. I'd say I met you 9 or maybe 8.5 years ago, and I will never forget what he said when he came into my office. He looked around, it was at Christmas time, and he looked around first of all to see if I had a nativity scene out, and I surprised him I did. But second of all, he said that I had a little bit of heaven in me and a whole lot of hell, and that was probably true.
Can we get an amen?
So that was probably true, but that started the relationship with Father Lynn, and the community is blessed for him coming here, and that was a need that was with the city to what were we going to do with Cardome as we were sinking at that time, and it worked out, and with Father Lynn's vision and with our desire to need to move it, it's all worked out. It just took more years than we had wanted it to take, but I am so excited that it has come and gone full circle from the nuns that were there back to where it's home. It's back home now, and I think the community will appreciate that. And I know what you all have done for the community, what the church has done for the community, and there's no greater gift than a church giving back to a community, and you all have done that. So we appreciate not only what the council has done, what the mayor has done, but also what Father Lynn has done and the church as a whole, and I'm very excited. I'm glad I got to be a part of it before, and I'm really glad that we're being a part of it today. So I wish nothing but success there. And that's it. I'm going to end on a happy note. I'm not going to bring you any negative.
No negative.
I'll save that for when Andrew's gone.
That'll work. Oh, thank you. Connie?
Wow, it's a lot of wind up here. You know what? I'm excited about the Cardome thing too. I feel like it's full circle, and I know everyone has worked very hard and very diligent, and I'm very grateful for all the work that you and Andrew have done. And Andrew, you deserve your vacation. I'm leaving the next week. No.
That's why I should say that.
Yeah, and as far as the HOA goes too, I just want to say that I have talked to some people too, and I have encouraged them and told them that we are not passing an ordinance anytime soon. That you know we'll probably have more meetings or whatever. So you've already pretty much said that, and I concur that we don't want to make it detrimental to our builders and our developers, but we do have to look out for our citizens. So, in saying all of that, good job. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. Chuck?
There was one thing I was asked to bring up to the council, and I don't think the council can do anything about it, but you might be able to, because you're on the Revenue Commission board.
Yes, sir.
It's the postal employees' paychecks for our city occupancy tax. They say the postal service won't take it out of their check in Georgetown, but that they do it in Lexington. So I just said I'd ask about it, maybe get some answers.
We, as, you know, everyone's aware that we're going through a period of real adjustment at the Revenue Commission, and we're really working on some of our past due issues. And because of that lack of payroll deduction system, there's more than one postal carrier on our delinquent list. So I need to check into if Lexington does deduct that. I was unaware of that.
The information I have is that it is the federal government that will not do the withholding. It's specific to the federal, because they're federal government employees, right? Postal workers. The federal government will not do local withholding. They'll do state and federal withholding, but they will not do local withholding. It's a policy. I'd like to dig into it deeper, but that is the information I've always been given. And it really surprises me to hear that they do it in Lexington. And I guess I'd like to see proof of that.
See how they doing it.
I questioned that, and
Yeah.
he said their union steward said that they were doing it in Lexington, so I guess we'll just ask them to look into it a little bit.
Where it really gets hard for those people, Chuck, is if it goes a couple of years, the amounts get large, and it's really hard on that individual to catch up, but yet the taxes are due.
I'm surprised that when they file their taxes and their accountant or their tax person doesn't tell them that they owe that percentage and that they pay the city or the Revenue Commission
Certain amount of money.
at April the 15th.
It's a self-reporting thing with the Revenue Commission. It's up to the individual employer or employee. If they're not employed by anyone, if they're self-employed, they have to self-report. And I mean, it's an obligation to keep up with it.
I
It
know.
can be onerous. I mean,
Yeah.
If there's a chance we can get that cooperation, Chuck, I'd like to know about it.
Apparently, the Postal Service is providing the Revenue Commission with the W-2s.
Our Revenue Commission?
The Postal Service is providing our Revenue Commission with the W-2s, so they know how much tax the people owe.
Oh, well, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, but if somebody does their own taxes and
Didn't realize.
They don't have to file it in there.
They want it taken out of their check. Employees do, for when I was requested.
Yeah, I would think they would, so they didn't get behind on it.
That's it.
That's it. Thanks. Mark?
Good.
You're good. Anything else come before the council?
How about a motion?
Take it.
There you go.
Motion for adjournment. Thank you.
Take it and run, folks.
Let's see, Tom, 7:45. I know you was on the road,
I didn't
though,
quite
brother.
get it.
I win, I was closer.
Who would you, David seconded that.
what's that? Yes,
We always don't get
as I recall.
You know.
Yeah, actually, Robert's Rules of Orders, I think.
Yeah.
You complete your agenda.
Yep. You were allowed to call. Actually, it doesn't even take that. You as the chair. You as the chair can adjourn a meeting without, that has no business.
You're sitting behind me. Enjoy your vacation.
I am staying home and I'm working in the garden.
Oh, you should have
It's
told
gonna
us
be
that.
gorgeous.
We'll come find your house. We know where you're at.
Stay away.
Thank you very
I
much.
just need a little, break. Nowhere. We're staying home and gardening.
You might need a little work on concrete.
I might.
Good idea.
You sell tillers? I could use one of those.
No, I don't have that. All right. I know where they went.
PDF
About the work.
Cardome resolution.
Can I just give it to you?
Sure.